Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening in Tesla stock, the market in general, and I'll give you my thoughts moving into what could be a pretty big week for Tesla. If I'm not mistaken, Thursday we have the Investors Day, where we have the vote coming out for Elon, whether or not it's approved. So let's see how that goes. But as usual, guys, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. No, I'm not a financial advisor, but again, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc., well, I do have a YouTube membership, a private membership, where again, I'm constantly sharing my thoughts, post updates every single day as the market's open and trading throughout the entire trading day. Different time frame analysis, options, flow, etc. So if something crazy happens, I'm there to try my best to explain, give levels, etc. Again, link is below in the description. We'll also have you there for just $3 a month, guys. That's all it is, $3 a month USD. I think it's pretty worth it. You get all my Tesla updates and broader market updates, things including like SPY, VIX, etc. $5 includes NVDA, $7 includes the whole package, where you also get access to my tier 3 posts, essentially charts that are not Tesla, not NVIDIA, setting up nicely in the market that seem to be ready to potentially move soon. And of course, access to our private Discord. I do chart requests every single Sunday with members, and we have a tier 3 chat room there as well. A lot of members day trading and whatnot too. So we'd love to have you there. Check it out, guys. But yeah. Jumping into Tesla, up a pretty, respectable, we'll say, given the market was, okay today, right? Nice little green day in the market, but Tesla 2.6%, not too bad, 468.34, right? So overall, a pretty nice day for Tesla. So what actually happened today? Well, for the most part, it was a pretty simple breakout, right? I mentioned how, whether it's in a kind of this bull flaggy sort of downward channel, or it's in a pennant like this the entire time, and they're technically already bottomed out, you don't know. You ultimately never really know which pattern it's in and which, setup it's actually in. But all we really cared about, and this is what I was saying, last week or late last week, is this top trend line. Once the top trend line breaks, it's probably looking pretty good. And that's exactly what happened. So this is what I was sharing with my members this morning about, right? And that's exactly what we ended up coming or occurring, right? So overall, pretty good stuff. And then, the 5-minute time frame is where I like to look for my entries. So again, for instance, right, just to explain how this kind of works, you can see that, we had two rejections right here at about, 4, 5, 8, we'll just say to make it simple. Double rejection here. The second on the 5-minute chart, which is where I zoom in to look for entries, we broke, which is this kind of, you can see this double rejection I just showed you on the 1-hour time frame. But then today we ended up breaking past above it on good volume as well. And that's all essentially you need to see. And that to me is exactly what I want to see. But there's multiple confluences, because not only was that a typical resistance breakout, but it was also a breakout of that 1-hour kind of, bull flag, bull pennant, whatever, bullish pattern is really all that matters. Upwards, which is good. So all these factors, phenomenal. Now the 1-hour SMI is getting a little bit extended here, right? And the 4-hour SMI is actually potentially showing a bearish divergence, where the stock is making a higher high, SMI is making a lower high. So there is some levels of concern there, but these divergences can take time before they even matter. So that is worth mentioning. But the way I look at these kind of situations, and the way I like to assess risk, personally speaking, when it comes to these kind of situations, breakouts, etc., is two things. Number one, if Tesla is truly bullish, right, any pullback from here that we get, I do want to actually now turn mid to low 460s into support. That is going to be the main thing I'll be watching for, because you can see, we had a nice push-up attempt over here, rejection. Push-up attempt over here, rejection, right? Double rejection. Now, we ended up closing a candle above this range that was, a very blatant resistance level in the past. So this shows strength. This definitely shows some level of strength, absolutely, right? So to me, the way I look at it now is any pullback from here, again, mid to low 460s, needs to hold the support now. If you start closing well back below that, and especially below, I would argue, about 457, okay, that's, not amazing. It's slightly concerning potentially, right? That's number one. Number two, in terms of riding the momentum, what I like to do is also use the EMAs, right? You can see here the 921 EMAs, right? If we close below the 9 EMA, okay, small concern, but nothing major. Closing below daily 21 EMA, okay, bigger concern. We only had one single daily closure below the 21 EMA in all of these candles over here. Honestly, even all these back here. Ever since this initial breakout happened all the way from back down in 360s, you can see, despite us chopping for quite some time, we only had one candle that closed below the 21 EMA. Otherwise, every single candle, every single candle has been holding strong right at these EMAs right here. Yeah, it dipped below, but it never closed below except for this one candle. So, things happen. I think this was the day when the market got very spooked about something too. So it was a bit of an anomaly, to be honest. But nonetheless, that's kind of how I like to ride the momentum, right? So let's continue monitoring that. Now, moving up to the upsides, right? As long as the EMAs allow for further momentum, like I said, again, just ride it the way it's been riding over here. Pretty simple stuff. But as long as the EMAs allow it, yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if maybe even going into the earnings, or not the earnings, the investors event on Thursday, retest close to all-time highs, mid-ish 480s. Really wouldn't fully shock me. That is, a very real possibility and something I'm personally expecting right now moving forward as well, as long as, again, A, we ideally hold the mid to low 460s, and B, we ideally hold the 9 EMA, but especially the 21 EMA, which we are slightly extended. So that's, worth mentioning. That is worth mentioning. We are definitely a little bit extended here, right? Every time we went up too far, we came back to the 21 EMA. But the first one is, I can hear my mouth. Is definitely the 21 EMA or the 9 EMA, which is this green line. Watch for this one first, right? So 2 levels, short term, going into the events. Mid to low 460s, 9 EMA. Currently at 453. It'll move up tomorrow. It'll probably be closer to 455, 56 tomorrow, right? It'll move its way up as it's, catching up to price. Watch for that, guys. Watch for the mid to low 460s over the next few days. Below that, concerns start to occur. Absolutely. Those potential divergences start to play out. Issues start to persist. Above, however, in my opinion, I think the bulls are in complete control. So let's continue monitoring that, and let's see if this momentum can continue carrying Tesla up to retest at the very least at, if not near, previous all-time highs. Again, mid to high-ish, we'll say 480s. The weekly, right? I mentioned how last week for the first time we ended up closing a weekly above these green fibs, which is a positive development. Now that means I can finally delete them. They are completely irrelevant now. This is a very bullish catalyst, a very bullish, I should say, sign, right? So very good stuff. I like to see this. Any pullback from here now will be more bullish than not, because again, if we ended up rejecting here and we never closed above, you have to understand any pullback from here could have had much more dire consequences, right? Because this could have just been all a massive, massive dead cat. The fact that we broke above this and we started closing above those Fibonacci's, essentially, at least in my perspective, I could be wrong, of course, but in my perspective, it does severely, if not fully, eliminate this being a dead cat. It's hard to look at this as a dead cat anymore because we broke levels that shouldn't have been broken if this was a dead cat. So that's very bullish, which again means that, yeah, we'll still get pullbacks. The stock is not just going to go only up from here to like $1,000 per share with no pullbacks. Of course not, right? We'll get pullbacks. But the good news is the fact that now that to me tells me that any pullbacks from here should be definitely much more bullish pullbacks as opposed to potentially, very bearish moves to the downside, which could, my cat is destroying my foot. Excuse me, guys. Which could have been very bearish pullbacks and much more aggressive, steeper pullbacks, lower, faster, harder. TLDR, it's a good sign for bulls, right? Dude, this cat wouldn't get off my foot. It's actually insane. So yeah, that's kind of the way I'll be looking at for Tesla stock moving forward, guys. And, that's the majority of it. Now let's quickly take a look at SPY if this cat will allow me. What is SPY doing? Let's go to the daily over here, right? Well, SPY is holding a key level. This is the level I mentioned to members as I was testing it around just before noon. I think it was around 10:30 a.m., something like that. We came back and we retested. Again, this is kind of what I was saying with Tesla. The 9 EMA came down, retested the 9 EMA, retested this trend line support. So far, so good. As long as SPY continues holding this level right around here, ideally, that's the best case scenario, because then, we wouldn't want to lose the 9 EMA and the trend line. Again, that could spell some trouble. But above this, the bulls are in unquestionable control still, at least in my opinion. Also going over the VIX very quickly, kind of the same idea. Tried to push up as SPY was down here retesting this level, potentially flirting with a breakdown below this trend line and the 9 EMA. The VIX was actually spiking, right? The VIX was spiking up above the orange line, but notice how it still ended up closing below the orange line. So as long as the VIX is continuing to be overall below the orange line and SPY is above the 9 EMA / the trend line, it's pretty bullish, guys. It's pretty bullish. Undeniably pretty darn bullish. Options flow. The final thing to talk about here really quickly. Overall, very bullish options flow as well. 32 million confirmed bullish flow. Only 11 bearish flow. So overall, definitely more bulls than bears. Some bears still stepping in. It's not fully bullish, obviously. For instance, here, you had some bears coming in here. You had a 350K. What is it here? Where is it? 350K. 467.5 put for this week, by the way, right? For this week. Another one here for 457.5. 240K, we'll say, also for this week. So some puts are coming in. The bears aren't fully silent, but the bulls are still definitely stronger than the bears overall. But again, in terms of levels, guys, you know what to look for moving forward. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.